Egypt, a land of ancient wonders and modern marvels, is often considered the cradle of civilization. Its rich history stretches back over 5,000 years, leaving an indelible mark on the world with achievements in architecture, science, and culture. From the mighty pyramids to the majestic Nile River, Egypt's history is a journey of innovation, resilience, and influence. Today, we'll explore the key milestones that shaped one of the greatest civilizations in human history. Ancient Egypt's story began around 3100 BCE, when King Menes united Upper and Lower Egypt, creating one of the most enduring civilizations in history. For over 3,000 years, Egypt was ruled by powerful pharaohs who were seen not just as kings, but as living gods. These rulers commanded enormous respect and had absolute power over the land, controlling its resources, people, and even religion. One of their most remarkable legacies is their architectural prowess. The pyramids of Giza, particularly the Great Pyramid built for Pharaoh Khufu, remain among the most iconic and mysterious structures in the world. Constructed with precise engineering and immense labor, these pyramids were tombs designed to honor the dead and ensure a safe passage to the afterlife. In fact, the Egyptians believed in a complex afterlife, where a person's soul would be judged by Osiris, the god of the underworld, and their heart weighed against the feather of truth. Mummification became a sacred process to preserve the body, as they believed it was essential for the soul's journey in the afterlife. But Egypt's achievements went far beyond monumental architecture. The Egyptians were masters of science and engineering, pioneering developments in mathematics, medicine, and agriculture. Their knowledge of the stars allowed them to create a calendar that closely resembled our modern one, and their advances in medicine included the use of surgery, herbal remedies, and the understanding of anatomy. Religion was woven into every aspect of Egyptian life. The Egyptians worshipped a vast pantheon of gods, each governing different aspects of nature and human life. Ra, the sun god, was considered the king of all gods, while deities like Anubis guided souls into the afterlife. The grand temples dedicated to these gods, such as Karnak and Luxor, were not just places of worship but centers of economic and political power. Daily life in ancient Egypt was organized around the Nile River. The Nile was the lifeblood of the civilization, providing water, fertile soil, and a natural highway for trade and transportation. The annual flooding of the river, known as the inundation, enriched the soil and allowed for abundant harvests, making Egypt the breadbasket of the ancient world. Hieroglyphics, the ancient Egyptian writing system, was a key tool for documenting everything from religious texts to trade records. Carved into temple walls or written on papyrus scrolls, these symbols left us a detailed record of ancient Egyptian society, culture, and religious beliefs. Despite their incredible achievements, the story of ancient Egypt is also one of challenges. From internal struggles for power to invasions by foreign enemies, Egypt faced many tests over its long history, yet its civilization persisted, adapting and growing stronger over centuries. Following the Old Kingdom, Egypt entered a period of change, known as the First Intermediate Period. This was a time of decentralization and internal strife, but it paved the way for the rise of the Middle Kingdom around 2050 BCE. Often considered Egypt's classical age, the Middle Kingdom saw a reunification of the land, as pharaohs regained control and stability returned to the country. This era is marked by the expansion of Egypt's borders, both through trade and military campaigns. Pharaohs like Mentuhotep II and Senusret III strengthened Egypt's economy and power. They extended trade routes deep into the Levant and Nubia, exchanging goods such as gold, ivory, and luxury items, which helped build the wealth of the Egyptian state. The Middle Kingdom also brought advances in art and literature, with tales like the story of Sinuhe, showcasing the sophistication of Egyptian narrative writing. However, the Middle Kingdom eventually gave way to another period of instability, known as the Second Intermediate Period, during which Egypt was ruled by foreign invaders known as the Hyksos. But Egypt would rise again during the New Kingdom, which began around 1550 BCE. This era, often referred to as Egypt's Golden Age, was a time of unprecedented wealth, power, and cultural flourishing. The New Kingdom saw the rise of some of Egypt's most famous and dynamic rulers. One of the most remarkable figures was Pharaoh Hatshepsut, a powerful female ruler who expanded Egypt's trade networks and commissioned monumental building projects, including her stunning mortuary temple at Deir el-Bahari. Hatshepsut's reign was peaceful and prosperous, and her leadership challenged traditional gender roles in a male-dominated society. Following Hatshepsut came one of the most famous military leaders of the ancient world, Ramses II, also known as Ramses the Great. He ruled for over 60 years and led Egypt into numerous military campaigns, expanding its territory to the far reaches of the Near East. His reign was marked by the construction of grand temples, including the iconic Abu Simbel, built in honor of his own greatness and Egypt's gods. Ramses's legacy as a builder and warrior secured his reputation as one of Egypt's most celebrated pharaohs. The New Kingdom was also a time of religious transformation. Pharaoh Akhenaten, who ruled in the 14th century BCE, attempted to radically change Egyptian religion by promoting the worship of a single god, Aten, the sun disk. He moved Egypt's capital to Amarna and sought to erase the traditional pantheon of gods. This religious experiment, however, was short-lived. After his death, Egypt quickly returned to its polytheistic traditions, and Akhenaten's successor, Tutankhamun, famously known as King Tut, restored the old ways. The New Kingdom is often remembered for its artistic and architectural achievements. The Valley of the Kings, where many of the pharaohs were buried, remains a treasure trove of ancient Egyptian art and culture. The tomb of Tutankhamun, discovered in 1922, revealed a wealth of artifacts that have since become iconic symbols of Egypt's past. This period saw the construction of enormous temples, such as Karnak and Luxor, which served both as religious centers and political symbols of Egypt's power. But even Egypt's golden age could not last forever. By the end of the New Kingdom, Egypt faced increasing challenges from foreign powers, including the Hittites and the Sea Peoples. Internal strife and economic difficulties weakened the empire, and Egypt entered another period of decline. By the end of the New Kingdom around 1070 BCE, Egypt's power had weakened, and the country was increasingly vulnerable to invasions and foreign rule. Over the next several centuries, Egypt experienced a series of conquests and changes in leadership, each bringing new influences to the region while also maintaining parts of its ancient traditions. In the 7th century BCE, Egypt was conquered by the Assyrians, followed by the Persians in the 6th century BCE. These invasions marked the beginning of a long era of foreign rule, yet Egypt remained an influential and vital region due to its strategic location and wealth. In 332 BCE, the legendary military leader Alexander the Great arrived in Egypt. Seen as a liberator by the Egyptians, Alexander's conquest marked the beginning of the Ptolemaic period. After his death, his general Ptolemy took control of Egypt and established a Greek dynasty that would rule for nearly 300 years. The Ptolemies brought Hellenistic culture to Egypt, blending Greek and Egyptian traditions in a unique way. This era saw the founding of the great city of Alexandria, which became a hub of culture and learning. The famous Library of Alexandria, one of the largest and most significant libraries of the ancient world, attracted scholars from across the Mediterranean. One of the most famous rulers of this period was Cleopatra VII, the last active ruler of the Ptolemaic kingdom. Cleopatra is known for her intelligence, political acumen, and her alliances with Roman leaders Julius Caesar and Mark Antony. Her efforts to preserve Egypt's independence ultimately failed, and after her defeat in 30 BCE, Egypt was absorbed into the Roman Empire. As a Roman province, Egypt continued to thrive as a vital source of grain and wealth for the empire. However, the end of native Egyptian rule marked a significant shift in the country's history. Over the next several centuries, Egypt would become part of the Byzantine Empire until the 7th century CE, when it was conquered by Arab Muslim forces. The Islamic conquest of Egypt in 641 CE brought profound changes to the country. Egypt became part of the rapidly expanding Islamic Caliphate, and Cairo was founded as the capital in 969 CE by the Fatimid dynasty. Islam became the dominant religion, and Arabic replaced the ancient Egyptian language. However, many aspects of Egypt's ancient culture persisted, and the country became an intellectual and cultural center of the Islamic world. Throughout the medieval period, Egypt remained a key region, strategically located for trade between Africa, the Middle East, and Europe. The Mamluk Sultanate, which ruled from the 13th to 16th centuries, oversaw a golden age of art, architecture, and scholarship. The legacy of this period can still be seen in Cairo's grand mosques and vibrant bazaars. By the early 16th century, Egypt had once again become part of a larger empire, this time under the Ottoman Turks. Egypt would remain under Ottoman control for the next 300 years, though local rulers often held significant power. Egypt's journey into modern times began with increasing foreign influence and control, particularly in the 19th century. In 1798, the French military leader Napoleon Bonaparte briefly occupied Egypt, marking the start of a new era of European intervention. Although the French left just a few years later, the invasion sparked renewed European interest in Egypt's strategic location, especially as a gateway to India and Africa. In 1869, one of the most significant engineering feats of the time, the opening of the Suez Canal, transformed Egypt's position on the global stage. The canal, connecting the Mediterranean Sea to the Red Sea, became a vital link for international trade. However, it also brought more foreign control, particularly from Britain. By 1882, Britain had effectively taken control of Egypt, and while Egypt remained officially part of the Ottoman Empire, it functioned as a British protectorate for decades. The early 20th century saw the rise of Egyptian nationalism, fueled by frustration with British rule and the desire for independence. The Egyptian Revolution of 1919, led by Saad Zaghloul and the Wafd Party, was a nationwide movement demanding an end to British occupation. This led to Egypt gaining nominal independence in 1922, though Britain retained significant control over Egyptian affairs, particularly the Suez Canal. The real turning point came in 1952, with the Egyptian Revolution led by the Free Officers Movement. The monarchy was overthrown, and Nasser emerged as Egypt's president. Nasser's leadership marked a period of profound change. He nationalized the Suez Canal in 1956, asserting Egypt's sovereignty and sparking an international crisis known as the Suez Crisis. Despite military intervention by Britain, France, and Israel, Nasser's bold move strengthened his position as a champion of Arab nationalism and anti-imperialism. Under Nasser, Egypt became a leading voice in the non-aligned movement during the Cold War, aligning itself neither with the West nor the Soviet bloc. Nasser's policies of social reform, land redistribution, and industrialization were aimed at modernizing Egypt, though his rule also faced challenges, particularly after Egypt's defeat in the 1967 Six-Day War with Israel. Following Nasser's death in 1970, Anwar Sadat took over as president. In 1979, Sadat made a historic peace agreement with Israel, known as the Camp David Accords, for which he won the Nobel Peace Prize. However, the peace treaty was controversial in the Arab world, and Sadat was assassinated in 1981. Sadat's successor, Hosni Mubarak, ruled Egypt for nearly 30 years. Mubarak's presidency was marked by relative stability but also widespread corruption and authoritarianism. In 2011, as part of the broader Arab Spring movement sweeping across the Middle East, Egyptians took to the streets in mass protests, demanding political reform and an end to Mubarak's regime. After 18 days of protests, Mubarak resigned, ending his 3-decade rule. In the years since the revolution, Egypt has faced political turmoil, economic challenges, and social upheaval. The brief presidency of Mohamed Morsi, the first democratically elected leader, was followed by his ousting in a military coup led by General Abdel Fattah el-Sisi, who became president in 2014. Today, Egypt remains a key player in both the Arab world and global politics. Its economy is centered around tourism, agriculture, and the Suez Canal, which continues to be a crucial trade route. The nation is also a cultural powerhouse, blending its ancient heritage with modern development. Cities like Cairo remain vibrant centers of art, music, and innovation, while the Nile River, which has sustained Egypt for millennia, continues to shape the lives of its people. Modern Egypt is a testament to resilience and adaptation. It has survived invasions, colonialism, and revolution, yet it stands as a proud nation with a deep historical legacy and a bright future.